Hi, everybody. It's Miss Austin, and I'm going to be doing the Lesson 9 practice problems. These start on page, I believe, 66 in your book. Number 1, it says, find the solutions to each of these equations or explain why there is no solution. So oftentimes when it comes to square roots, right, the answer to this is positive. So it's going to have one solution. If it's a cube root, it can have a negative or a positive solution. So if the radical's already alone, you can look and decide. Right now, the radical's not alone, so I can't even really make a decision. So I'm going to subtract 7, and I get the square root of x plus 5 equals 3. Everything's looking okay because this is positive and that says positive. You could do this mentally. You know what? Sorry, Miss Austin needs a manicure. The square root of what number is 3? 9. So to make that 9, that needs to be 4. Okay, but I'm going to do the procedures. So to undo square root, I'm going to square both sides. So I get x plus 5 equals 9. Subtract 5 from both sides, x equals 4. And it's always a good idea to check your solution in case you made a simple arithmetic error. If I put a 4 right here, right? 4 plus 5 plus 7, does that equal 10? That's 9. The square root of 9 is 3, and 3 plus 7 is 10. Okay, why would you do this? Because, what if you make a simple mistake? Just to double check. All right, letter B. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. And I mean, it did equal a negative already, so you might think, well, wait a sec. A square root is a positive answer. It says negative. But be careful, because if this was negative and when you moved it over, okay, so you might want to wait until you get the radical alone before you make your decision. You can stop right now, right? The answer to the square root is positive. That says that a positive number is going to equal a negative number. It can't. This has no solution. You could go to Desmos, right? The graph of that looks something like this. And it says, when does that run into negative 5? Never. Okay? No solution. The mistake would be that a student would square both sides and keep going, and they would get an answer, thinking they had followed all the steps. But you would be able to catch it if you checked your solution. All right, number 2. For each equation, decide how many solutions it has and explain how you know. So throughout the last couple of units, or excuse me, lessons, we've, talked about if a problem is x squared equals a positive number, there's 2 possibilities. You have the positive number squared that can make this happen, and you have the negative answer squared that can make this happen. So I already know this problem has 2 solutions. And you could think about the graph. This is an x squared graph. If you wanted to go to Desmos, this would look something like this. And it says, when does that run into 25? 2 times. 2 solutions. And just for fun, let's go ahead and solve this, right? You would take the square root of both sides, so that'd be x minus 4 equals 5. But this could also be a negative 5 in here, right? So you'd add 4. So one of the solutions is 9, add 4. One of the solutions is negative 1. And then just kind of check mentally. 9 minus 4 is 5. 5 squared is 25. Negative 1 minus 4 is negative 5. Negative 5 squared is 25. It didn't ask to find the solutions, but what the heck, extra practice, right? Okay, this is a square root. Square roots have to equal a positive. It does. Now, square roots, they only have one solution, though. And if you want to remember what the graph looks like, it looks like this, right? When does that run into 5? One spot. This has one solution. If we want to go ahead and solve this just for fun, I know you're thinking, yes, please. This would be x minus 4 equals 25. Add 4 to both sides. X equals 29. Put a 29 in there. 29 minus 4 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. All right. X cubed. Now, these were both, this is x squared and then the inverse, the square root of x. X cubed and the cube root of x always have one solution. Okay, these guys can have two solutions, or if it's a negative, no solution. Square roots can have one solution, or if it's a negative, no solution. X cubed always has one solution. So I already know that. Okay, write that down right now. One solution. One solution. And if, you know, the graph looks like this. X cubed minus 7 is something like this. When does that run into negative 20? Down here somewhere. That's one solution. This one, oh boy, this is a stretched cubic. So Miss Austin is going to, and it wants to know, when does that equal 0? Okay, let's just solve those for fun. If I add 7, that'd be x cubed equals negative 13. To undo cube, you do the cube root. So x equals, I just leave it as the cube root of negative 13, which, if you wanted to see what number that was. Now remember, the point here is not to know the solution, it's to know how many there are. But I'm just using this opportunity to practice. It says about negative 2.35. And this one, I mean, hopefully 6 times what is 0? 0. Well, what number has a cube root of 0? 0. I mean, if you wanted to solve it out, cube, x equals 0. Okay, but the main point of these problems is this right here. And expect this on the test or the quiz, right? An x squared can have two solutions or none. If it's a positive number, it has two. If it's a negative, it's none. Square root of x can only have one solution if it's set equal to a positive. If that was a negative number, there'd be no solution. And then x cubed and the cube root of x always have exactly one solution. All right. The solving part of that was bonus. All right, number 3, it says Jada was solving the equation, the square root of 6 minus x equals negative 16. She was about to square each side, but then she realized she could give the answer without doing any algebra. What did she realize? We just talked about this on the previous page. The square root of x, this is a positive number. That says that it's going to equal a negative. That's not possible. Let me show you the graph again. That's the square root of x. When is it going to run into negative 16? Never. If you see this, you can automatically say no solution. Okay? What some students will do, and we're going to see it on the next problem, is they will do what Jada was about to do, and they'll follow all these steps, and they'll get a solution they think works, but it doesn't. And I'll show you that on the next problem. You'll catch your mistake when you are checking. So it says she was about to. What did she realize? No solution. Because the square root of x has to be a positive number. And negative 16 is not positive. All right, number 4. Here are the steps Tyler took to solve the equation, the square root of x plus 3 equals negative 5. So let's see what he did. I can see that he squared this side and he squared this side. That leaves me with x plus 3, 25, and then subtracted 3 and gets 22. Check Tyler's answer. Is the equation true if x equals 22? Explain or show your reasoning. So we're going to take this 22 and we're going to plug it right here. 22 plus 3 equals negative 5. 22 plus 3 is 25. Is the square root of 25 negative 5? No. Okay, we talked about this at, I think, lesson 6. Based on the definition in math, the square root is a positive number. If we wanted the negative, we would have the negative symbol written in front of it. The answer to this needs to be positive. That says it's negative. No, this is not true. You could, and again, you could go to Desmos. This would look something like this. X plus 3, the square root of x plus 3, that's what that graph looks like. When is that equal to negative 5? Never. What mistake did Tyler make? I mean, these mathematical moves are solid. He did the same thing to both sides. That's all right. But the mistake is right here. He shouldn't have even started this. The square root is a positive number. It cannot equal a negative. So it's the same reason as we put on number 3. The square root of x has to equal a positive number. As soon as you see the negative, right? No solution. Don't try to solve. All right. I think now we're going to get into some older review. Number 5, we got our powers, our rational exponents. It says complete the table using powers of 16 in the top row and radicals or rational numbers in the bottom. So the top, they want us to write this number as a power of 16, and the bottom, they want us to write in the bottom. So 16 to the first power is 16. How can I get 16, right? How do 16 and 4, how are they related? 4 is the square root of 16. How do you write that? And they want me to use powers. They won't want me to use radicals in the top. So, you know, the square root of 16 is 4. Remember, how do you write the square root using powers? 16 to the 1/2. Okay, which is the square root of 16, which is 4. 16 to the 1/3, remember the denominator is the root and the numerator is the power it's being raised to. Since that's just a 1, you could write it there or you could leave it off. It's your choice. Okay. And we're supposed to do 16 to what power makes this? Well, what power turns any number into 1? 16 to the 0. Okay, and this last one, how could 16 become a 4th? Well, just like this one, we know 4 is the square root of 16, but this time the 4 is on the bottom. Well, how do you get the reciprocal? You make the power negative. So it's going to be this answer right here, except I want that 4 on the bottom instead of 4 over 1. I want 1 over 4. So it's this answer, but it's negative. 16 to the negative 1. All right, last one, number 6. Which are the solutions to x cubed equals 35? Well, hopefully you remember from a minute ago, we were talking, I think, number 3. Cube roots have exactly one solution. Okay, so, and I mean, if you wanted, let's think about a picture of this first. The cube root of x looks something like this, and 35 is way up here. So clearly it's only got one answer. So D is wrong. And this says 2 answers. No, it's only got one answer. Which one is it? If you want to think about this with procedures, how do you undo cube? Cube root, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. X equals the cube root of 35. The negative cube root of 35 would want this answer, but it would want it negative. That's not what it wants. Okay, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions for the upcoming quiz, please email, or if you want to meet on Zoom, I'd be happy to meet you. Thank you.